What's happening, guys? So we are lucky enough to possibly have one of or the strongest motherfuckers, even assisted or natural. I don't give a fuck. Like I can't even fucking squat what he deadlifts or bent or whatever. He's just fucking nuts. But yeah, if you'd like to introduce yourself, bro, it's nice to have you on.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me on. So I am Christopher McCready, Khifie West, whatever you want to know me off of Instagram. It's probably one of my main things. Reasoning behind the Khifie West just goes back to my past professional wrestling days. That was my stage name. And I did contemplate changing everything on like social media and things, and obviously going back to just as in like my real name and obviously go by that. But I think everything kind of started taking off with the bodybuilding, so I just literally kept it. And I'm just gonna have to deal with it for the rest of my life. Of why is your username Khifie West? Why is your name Chris McCready? Blah 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 blah. All of that.
At least it's an introduction. It's a conversation starter, right?
That's it. That is literally it. Because it's like people are like to me, oh, so do I call you Christopher? Do I call you Chris? Do I call you Khifie? It's like, whatever.
I had the same thing though, because obviously my Instagram's Ryan Rhino.
Yeah,
but like
yeah.
When I was like probably 7-8 years ago, I was told like you need like something to differentiate yourself on socials, like when it first started. And I was like, okay, and everyone called me Rhino anyway, but only my friends. And then obviously now people like Rhino, but like my mum and dad don't call me that. So like, and I'm like, they just don't get it, well, bless them. But I've kept it because now changing it to my normal name just wouldn't seem right.
No, but see that's literally it. That's like I tried it even on Facebook, and it just looks so weird. And it's like
class.
I'm not bringing that to Instagram. It's like
yeah. I think Instagram's the one place you can get away with. I remember AJ saying about a kid saying his name's Bathtub because he's fucking all his progress pictures in the like next to a bathtub. Oh mate, I didn't even realize it. I just went with it. I was like, oh yeah, that's his name. I was like, fucking nuts.
Oh my days.
But like, so you used to be a wrestler before bodybuilding. So how did you get into like? What's a bit of a backstory? So you got into bodybuilding from.
Well, I mean, going back to it, like bodybuilding was never ever really the goal. The main goal, the main goal growing up was always just to become a professional wrestler. Do you know, like your Undertaker, Triple H, John Cena. You know,
yeah.
It was.
I love Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy.
Yeah,
that was the fucking swanton bomb, like literally.
You would just swanton bomb off of everything.
Everything, like the couch, the whole living room would be just fucking literally. Mum, what are you doing? Fucking swanton bomb. 100%. Getting your little cousin in like the fucking walls of Jericho, just like tap out, class.
Oh man, but that was the goal. The goal was always to become that, and I was. The unfortunate part of it all was I kind of lived in the middle of nowhere, so it was always the goal. I had to wait until I was 16. Once I turned 16, I kind of pushed it to the point where my mum agreed to take me to Glasgow 2 or 3 times a week, because obviously I couldn't drive, couldn't do anything like that kind of thing. So I had to travel around kind of 2.5 hours, 3 times a week just to train. Obviously to get the professional training to become obviously the professional wrestler. Was fortunate enough to put everything into that and start getting bookings for shows and things. Obviously it's all entertainment, so it was never like any competitions. It was more so entertainment shows. But once you started getting bookings, it was like it's starting to feel like,
because I don't know what's the training like for wrestling.
It's more so like looking at it from our standpoint, it's all conditioning. So you need to be able to go like 20 to 30 minutes running about after somebody. Do you know what I mean? Like I was always I was never the one that was going to jump about doing springs and all that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? I was never going to be flipping about all that. I was always going to be doing your kind of big like power slam moves and things, because as I started getting a bit bigger, that was obviously my kind of gimmick in it. So I always had to I always had to make sure that I was conditioned enough to run after some wee guy that wanted to run off the ropes 10 times, or he wanted to jump over here. I had to be like fit enough to be able to cope with obviously that. So it was good that obviously there was a lot of learning in it, because obviously you had to learn how to bump, like you had to learn how to fall on your front, your back, your side, off of top ropes, off of cages and everything. Wow. You had to learn to fall to make sure you weren't going to fucking die. Do you know what I mean? It's mad though. It's mad. Like I've not done it for like around for about 2 years now. When I kind of like once it took a backseat, obviously when the bodybuilding kind of took over, I would like to go back to it now and see, like,
if you
I'll
could
probably
punch
be a big
someone
pussy
through the
now.
ring.
I
Yeah.
would. I don't know. I think it would be interesting to.
Is it a spring? Is the ring springy? Is it a spring ring?
So it's weird, right? Because under the ring, right? Under the ring, there is these massive springs that are like coated with like, I don't know what it is, like metal or something like that. But on top of them, it's literally just like board, like plywood. So it's like, do you know how you get, do you know, like at school you would get like the gym mats,
Yeah,
like the thin gym mats that were like that. It's literally wood, like that thick, and all like across the big square. And then basically on top of that is you know how you get the jigsaws that you would get in like a gym studio on like the floor of the jigsaw kind of things. It was like a small layer of that on top.
Like a
And
yoga
then
mat sort of thing.
yeah, basically, yeah. So I mean that was literally it. So it was fucking sore, so it was.
Yeah, I bet, man, yeah.
It was it
Did you
wasn't the
have
most
like a
pleasant
training
thing.
regime or like a routine, like a training regime or a diet at that point or not?
Nah, to be honest with you, I never took anything to do with the diet side of things. Then back then, I was probably getting more knowledgeable towards training.
Yeah.
Like I was probably at the point where I knew I was going in to train chest, I knew I was going in to train back, I knew I was going to train legs, kind of thing. But I mean, because there was that much traveling involved, and obviously at the time, bodybuilding dieting was never the goal. I was literally like, you were having like, you were on the road constant because it was like a 5 hour round trip 3 times a week just to train for 2 hours. So you were like, you were on the way up, you were maybe having something a little bit more kind of energized for the training, but then going home, you were having McDonald's, KFC.
Yeah, like when I was younger playing football, like I always say if I knew then what I know now, fuck, my performance would be so. Like I was eating fucking oranges at halftime. I'm like, what the fuck is that gonna do? Or like, you know, like looking back now, I'm like, oranges? What? Like really half an orange? Like, yeah, let's go team.
That's literally it. It's madness.
But again, so you, how long was that till? When did you do wrestling up till?
So I done it up until, oh, when would it have been? The back end, the back end of 2019. So
who's your favorite wrestler?
My favorite was always John Cena. That's actually, this is where the this is where the funny story, the funny part comes in, because my stage name was Khifie West. Now West has got absolutely nothing to do with me. Not a thing. Not where I come from. It's not my last name. It's literally nothing. But John Cena was always my role model. Still kind of is. Obviously, he went through the bodybuilding side of things and that as well. He's actually from West Newbury, Massachusetts, in America. Now, I wanted to keep Khifie in because Khifie was a nickname that I grew up with. Basically, it went through primary school, through high school, and just kind of it stayed. So I wanted to keep it in because obviously it meant something. And then I obviously wanted a kind of last name to kind of finish it off. So what we done was we looked obviously through quite a lot of people, but it always kind of came back to John Cena, and then we looked up where he came from. West Newbury, Massachusetts, in America. So we thought we'll just take the West from that and put it obviously back to the Khifie, and obviously we turned Khifie from a C to a K because KW looked better than CW.
That's class. Mad how much went into that. No one actually knows. Now they know the story behind the
it's
name.
It's such a gay
you can't
story.
get rid of it. Not a chance. So when, sorry, I interrupt you. When did you stop wrestling and start properly training?
Well, that would have been maybe mid 2019 to the back end of 2019. I think more. I mean, I say that like I done my first show. When did I do my first show? 2017. So I kind of knew my ins and outs of training by then, really. But by the time 2017 came, I was what, 19, 20 when I done my first show. So I had what, 16, 17, 18, 19, 4 years into training. So I kind of started getting a bit more knowledgeable. And then my first year in competing, I just basically fucking lived off of chicken and rice because I thought that's what bodybuilders do.
Prep yourself for that?
Yeah, prep myself all the first year. And then second year was when I kind of moved.
How did you personally find like your first prep? Everyone's first prep is probably the most memorable prep. One of.
It was it was actually a special year. Like it was a really good year. Looking back, like looking at it now, it was a successful year. Like I was able to become the teen world champ, and what I'm trying to think, what the Britain, I came up runner up at the Britain, but won my qualifiers. So I mean, realistically at the time, I was probably on quite a high because I was like, fuck, this is all going well. Do you know what I mean? But looking back at looking back at my stage shots, at the time I thought obviously I was in decent nick, but then you always get 5, 6 years down the line and you look back at your first stage shots and you're like, holy fuck, why did I even go on stage?
Yeah, and I think the standards now are so higher because there's so much more
Yeah.
knowledge. But in a sense, so you did your first show and you prep yourself, and that prep was like you actually enjoyed that prep, right?
Yeah, it was literally just, it was like, I never really knew what was happening. I never knew what, like, I was always in that kind of like frame of mind of I wanted to learn my body really more than anything else. I wanted to see how my body would cope with this food or that food or this amount of food. Like, I knew nothing about being in a fucking calorie deficit or anything like that. I was just literally, I moved from eating literally junk food to chicken and rice, and I was like, let's see if it works.
I was the same. Like my off season, I didn't even know I have to, not to have an off season because I just come from sport eating oranges at halftime and drinking Lucas thinking I was smashing it. I'd gone from eating like Haribos and biscuits just on the go, like you say. I used to play sport every single bloody night, so it was like my dad would pick me up and we'd go, and then I'd be back home and I'd just grab something to eat. So I went from eating like KFC thinking that was chicken to then actually not knowing what a sweet potato was, not knowing how to cook a sweet potato. I was like,
Yep.
what the hell? And then my first prep was like a massive eye opener when I first actually started eating a bodybuilding diet. So how long after your first prep did you then compete again?
I've been a seasonal competitor. This is actually my first year off.
Okay.
So in 2018, I kind of tried to do the same route of what I'd done the year prior, obviously my first year. So I
Just
went straight in for,
sorry, just to interrupt you. The thing
yeah.
that people don't know is, so what's the roots of obviously turning professional in your federation? So how?
So I've got to do a qualifier, and then I've got to go to the British. I've then got to win my category at the British, go on to the overall at the British, and win the overall at the British, obviously.
Okay. And then from there, you
So
go to pro shows.
yeah, then you move to pro shows after that. So it's it's a bit like, it's quite a route, like obviously throughout the year kind of thing. It's quite a, they only give out one pro card a year as well. So it's like, it's really just one opportunity kind of thing. So that's why obviously you know yourself, like when you get to the British finals, the standard from what you get at your qualifier, oh shit, fuck's sake, the standard you get from your qualifier, like the caliber of athletes at your qualifier versus everybody turning up at the British finals from all of the qualifiers, obviously it's different gravy altogether. Do you know what I mean? Because even at that, like some people obviously will only go into their qualifiers maybe at like 70%, 80%, and then say they've got like an extra 6 to 8 weeks dieting to get even more fucking peeled or push food up a little bit or something. It's like
That's what
totally
I
different
found
kind of
as
thing. So
well. With the IFBB, it was like, oh, you can get your pro card, like one pro card out a year, like originally, and then they started like a few out. But then everyone was like, oh, they give them out for internationals. My first international was like an amateur Olympia, and there was 37 in my class from every
it's,
country, and I had to win that class and then win the overall to then win my. And it's like it doesn't get like as you get further on, it's just different standards. Like to get to that
yep.
level, it's hard. Like people are like, oh, I'm just gonna go and compete internationally. It's like, yeah, and it's fucking. There's people from all like the best of every country is practically in your class. It's
Yep.
big. It's a mass, and especially now with the bodybuilding thing. So, so are you pro now? You won your. Did you win the British?
Yep, won it in December last year. So the main goal was really actually to take the junior British title, as it was literally the one that I was desperate to get ticked off, because it was the only one that every time I kept getting to the British finals, I kept getting like the runner up spot, I kept getting second spot, and it was like in 2019, like there was so much like conflict with the show and how it ended up, and how there was like, it was a split decision by the end, and then it was like, obviously I got the runner-up spot, but I wasn't meant to get the runner-up spot, and it was like, instead of, basically it would have been so easy to go onto like social media and just bitch about it and things like that, but I just kind of, I came off a stage, took it, and I was like, right, we'll get back up on stage next year, back up and go for the British title again. Do you know what I mean? So that was that was the main goal. Do you know? So
yeah,
it was
100%.
it was the one that we really wanted to take off, and then obviously COVID happened and that, and we went into prep, like we went into diet, and obviously just because COVID happened, I wasn't just competing because obviously COVID happened and there wasn't going to be many competitors or whatever. Like that was quite a big thing at the start. Everybody was like, oh, well, why are you not taking the year off when obviously COVID happened and all that? But it was always the goal from 2019 when I stepped on like off a stage. But we done, because in 2019, I actually, even though I got runner-up spot, I actually got an invite to the Worlds, which was, it was hard to take because it was like usually only first place gets an invite to the Worlds. I got an invite to the Worlds, was able to take the junior world title in 2019, and then obviously because I won the Worlds, that gave me a bye to the next year's British finals without doing a qualifier. So I never had to do a qualifier last year. I just got a straight through to the British final. So I mean, it was good that way because it was literally only a one prep run through. But because of COVID, the show got cancelled like 2 times, and then by the last and final time, whenever we were meant to compete that week, we went into the depletion, started the first day of carb up, which would have been what, a day and a half out, and I got the phone call saying that the show had been cancelled. My head just went, head literally went. It was up my arse already, and it literally just went fucking further up. So it did. So
what did you do then?
Got faced with the choice of waiting a month, because this was last year whenever England went back into lockdown for 1 month, November to December, because obviously the show was happening in London. So I got given the opportunity to stay on diet and diet for a further 4 weeks, and I'd already been dieting since like fucking April or something like that, just for this one show, because it was meant to go ahead in September, so kind of got pushed on a little bit. But we got obviously the choice of competing. We had to go in with an open mind that come the month's time, the show might have still not have went ahead. Do you know what I mean? I could have dieted and killed myself for another 4 weeks, but the show might still not go ahead. But then I think with my stubbornness and with me really wanting the junior British title, like I don't know, it's hard to say. Like, I would love to sit here and say that becoming pro was the main goal. It wasn't. The main goal was the junior British title. That's all I wanted.
Yeah.
And then obviously with my stubbornness as well, dieted for a further 4 weeks. Probably wanted to murder everybody on the planet. It just allowed me to obviously come in looking that wee bit better as well, that wee bit crisper as well. So I mean, it was a good day by the end. Got obviously a month down the line, the show went ahead, and it ended up not the worst day. So it was.
And then you won the British as you won your class, then you won the overall, and then you? So that turns you then pro.
Yep, that turned me pro, and then what happened was after I turned pro, I got in it. This, like, it never happens. You usually, once you get your pro card, you then have to wait until like the following year to like have your pro debut kind of thing. But I got the opportunity that night, within like 15-20 minutes of just winning my pro card. I got the opportunity that night to jump in with the pros, and basically I was only looking at it as like a bit of a fun experience to just be absolutely nailed by them, because obviously it was just rounds and rounds and rounds, and by the end everybody was like completely decked. But it was it ended up like a successful run as well, because there was, how many was there? 6 in the pro Grand Prix that night at the British finals. There was 6 pros, and then obviously it was getting announced 6th, 5th, 4th, 3rd, and it got down to, I think it got down to the last 3, and I was still standing. So I was like, I must just not be getting placed kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Because obviously it was the expectations, there was none. We weren't expecting to get last place, weren't expecting to get first place. Do you know what I mean? Just went out to have fun and just basically see what it was like, get a bit of experience of what I'll be going up against, obviously, in the future, and obviously how I'll need to cope with all the posing and that in the future. And yeah, we ended up taking fucking top spot, taking first place in the pro class that night, which was like half an hour after I'd just turned pro as from an amateur. So
how did that feel?
I was like very shocked because when it came down to last two, the boy that got runner up was favourite throughout the whole year to win like the overall class kind of thing. So when it came down to last two, I was like, fuck, well, if I take runner up here, like that's gonna be massive because obviously I've just came into pro class here. But then I also had in my head, I don't know why I had it in my head, but I also had in my head that like I must just not be getting placed. I'm like I must just be out here to stand. Do you know what I mean? For just like for the experience, and then obviously once the guy that was favourite to get the top spot, once he got announced as runner up, I was like, fuck. Like I was like,
moment, isn't there? Like that, literally, like everything stops.
Yep, absolutely everything.
I was the same when I got my pro card. I was like,
yep.
And you're like, you literally, your heart, it doesn't sound weird. Your heart is in your throat, and you're like, what? Like, what? It just blanks out, don't you? And then you're like,
I know.
You're like, shit, like, it's fucking done it.
It was.
So how far do you see, like, far do you see you taking it now? What's your goal? What's the ultimate goal?
My goal is overall pro world champ. That is there's the last thing to tick off in natural bodybuilding is pro world champ. That's the last thing. That's the last thing I look at it as. I feel once that's ticked off, then that'll be me. It'll be time to obviously make the jump. It'll be time to move into big boy world for real.
That was probably a question I was going to ask. So, do you ever think you will use anabolics?
Yes, just because I understand my goals and I know how far I want to take it. It's just a case of
you want to do the Olympia. You want to turn
Olympia is 110% the goal. Yep, definitely. It's I like to consider myself somebody who's very honest. And I will always be honest. Like I would never sit here and say that Olympia is not my goals. I would never sit here and say that. Like it's a hard one because right now it's impossible to say when the time's going to happen kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? But at the same time, it's like I've just turned 23 and I've still got one like last kind of thing to tick off in natural bodybuilding that I want to do. And then from then potentially might just be 24 and then it's kind of go time. And then by that time, like I'll have achieved like a lot of potential within the natural industry and obviously with my natural potential.
You are in the perfect position. Like if there's anyone I could say, because if I could go back and obviously like I'm a professional and my goal is now the Olympia. Do you know what I mean? And I'm the same. Like I'm like it could be a year. I could do it in a year, or I could do it in 3 years. Do you know what I mean? Like and I've said that since I was like 21. But obviously I didn't have the knowledge or the people around me to guide me in your way to say, no, don't use anabolics. Get your natural strength up. It was just, you're going to do a bodybuilding show, here, do this. And I was just strong. But like I tell every single person now, like if you could get to 24, 25 without using, and you've been through 4 or 5 preps and you know your body and you're strong, and it's like you're literally limitless. Do you know what I mean? It's like the perfect spot to be in. Like again, have you found it hard to not jump to the anabolic side of things earlier, or
it's see if I'm being honest with you, like where I grew up, obviously we're living in the middle of nowhere. I grew up with a lot of shit as like accusations and that of me already taking gear kind of thing, because I was brought up in a very small place, and it obviously just so happened that I was able to go in and deadlift 200 plus for reps. I was able to go in and like obviously this was like 16, 17-year-old, so it was like growing up there was always that shit. And then obviously I started competing within natural federations, that was then said that, oh, drug testing means fuck all, he's taking this, he's taking that kind of thing. Then I was always getting the, oh, well, you know, you are going to have to take them. You should start taking them now. You should start all this kind of stuff. And I believe that's kind of driven me to not take them just yet, because I know that, like, I would never, like, this is not, like, I would never set limitations on myself without drugs kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't look at like a 320, 330 kilo deadlift as impossible as an actual bodybuilder kind of thing. If I was to look at that as not possible, I wouldn't do it kind of thing. Like, if I was to straight away set a limitation on myself, I wouldn't do it. That's just the way that I've always really kind of looked at things. Like, I feel as if I'm a person that's kind of all in or not in at all kind of thing. I would never, if there was a chance to half-arse something, I just wouldn't do it kind of thing, if that was going to be the case. But I feel as if, because I've grew up like that, and I've not really been fortunate enough to grow up in somewhere like your, I don't know, what could you say, like your ultra flex gyms and that you would be surrounded by, obviously, I think it would be maybe a little bit different if I was surrounded by a lot of IFBB pros and that, and I was surrounded by a lot of big boys. I would be like, fuck, I want to be there right now kind of thing. But because I've just really been surrounded by, I'm not really going to sit here and be like a cunt or anything, but I've been surrounded by the wrong people kind of thing, which I believe has maybe driven me to kind of just stay with it now, really. But obviously I do have my support and my circle, obviously, on social media and things like that, that obviously, like, I've got my, like, yourself, for instance, like, we've got our close people, do you know that way, like, we've got our close people that we need regardless of whether we're 3 or 4 hours away from them kind of thing. It's just really been like that. But I think maybe if I was based somewhere where there was a lot of like big boys around me every single day, I would probably be more tempted to kind of dabble a little bit earlier, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so I think that's definitely something that comes into play, because it resets the benchmark, and also then everybody does it. Everyone compares themselves to everybody else, and like when I was younger, it was the same. It was like, I think he's on gear. Do you think they're on gear? Do you think that? And it's like, well, and it was almost like you had to be at that level. Well, they're there, and he's doing it, and I don't want to be left behind. Let's jump on the cycle. And it was like, you just, now it's absolutely rife, isn't it? Like, unbelievable. Like, people are like, oh, should I just jump on gear? I'm like, it's not a fucking miracle. Like, it's not, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. And you'll like, you'll always get, sorry, you'll always get the people that's like, you won't even get like anybody even really asking about it. You'll just get people like, oh, what's your cycle? I was gonna, you know what I mean? For obviously them to then take that on board and go and obviously fucking, it's madness.
I think sometimes too much information is bad. Do you know what I mean? Like, when you, like you say, when you've been in the middle of nowhere and you just have your family and there's no like outside peer pressure or influences, and you're just training for the love of it, and like you say, not setting any limitations for yourself, like, you're in a fucking, like, man, I'm assisted to fuck, and I can't deadlift what you deadlift, and like, well, your training and stuff like that as well is methodical, and I always find as well, people who are natural, who have come through and done the natural, of a lot more methodical and a lot more precise than, because they have to be, than people who are just straight assisted, because you just start picking shit up because it feels like, because you're on test or you're on, you know what I mean? You're like, oh, I'll just pick that up. It's not heavy anymore. Who coaches you then? Do you coach yourself?
So throughout my off season, I do my own things, but throughout contest prep, Vicky McCann, who she owns the Body Academy gym in Perth, and also is like the main runner of the BMBF. So I started working with her in 2019. And like, we still check in on that obviously on my off season, just to make sure that like I'm eating enough and things like that, and making sure that, just checking in to make sure really everything's going okay, because I feel as if she's got the kind of confidence in me of like my knowledge with my training and that. Like, I've always done my own training, but when it comes to contest prep, she always does my diet and cardio and supplements and things like that. So it's a really good thing, because obviously I give all my trust to Vicky. So it's like, I would, and if whatever she says, I'll just do it kind of thing. And it's like a meal plan and that as well. So it's like, I've never ever knew whatever fucking macros I've been on or anything like that. It's just been a case of, she tells me what to eat, I eat it, and that's it. Move on the next day. So
do you find that easier in prep? Like, do you find that easier than knowing what you can eat and what you can, as we were saying before, like, as you get more knowledge, I'm a victim to this. Like, as I've got more knowledge, prep has become a little, not harder, but it's like, oh, well, it doesn't matter that much. That doesn't matter that much. And then it's like, before, because I've been prepping for 10 years, whatever, it's like, oh, fucking hell, like, I could just, no, it doesn't matter. I'll just have this or I'll just have that. For me, I prefer, like, now I just have a meal plan and I just eat it, because I just find the variations and the ease of it, not the ease, but the convenience of it. I don't like convenience. I like fucking hard work.
I think like I don't like don't get me wrong, like I've got nothing against the like macro approach and that, and I know that it works for a lot of people, and I've got clients that it works for really well, and that's like fair enough kind of thing. I think it's more so like what your lifestyle's like, and a meal plan. I think that like you say, the meal plan is going to be harder regardless what anybody says, because you are literally getting up, eating the same things every single day, going to bed, doing it again. Do you know what I mean?
To flip the switch though, like I like to flip the switch and be like, you know what, let's go. And I just literally start prep. I'm like, I'll do whatever it like you just said, I'll do whatever it fucking takes. So it's a matter of like, you want me to eat grass? How much grass? Dog shit? How much? It's like, I don't do how much. Like, that's how it is, because I just like that mindset rather than just being like lackadaisy, like, oh well, if I fancy, no, I don't fancy. I fancy exactly what I'm meant to eat. I'm almost like a machine mentality. And people say,
literally,
oh, that's not healthy and it's not way to live. But it's what, a 16-week prep. If that's what it takes for me to be the best, I will sacrifice whatever the fuck it takes to be the best. And I think that's when you feel like you've earned it. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're like, well, no. And you step on, well, I do anyway. I step on stage knowing I couldn't give any more. And you know what I mean? And I've done everything to a T. So if I get beat, it's not meant to be. But I couldn't go on there being like, if only I hadn't had that pasta, or if only I hadn't had that, or only I hadn't had this. Like, it just doesn't work for me, that. Do you know what I mean?
That's like the difference between you as well, because if you think about it, you went on stage in a class of what, 35 plus people, had to go through all of them, had to then go through an overall to reach your IFBB Pro card. You never done that half-arsed and anything. Do you know what I mean? Nowadays, like, it is what it is in the way that the bodybuilding industry is now, but I would never say it's easy to achieve an IFBB Pro card now, but there's just a lot more of them being given out.
Yeah, I think so.
Like, if you look back at, like, say 5, 10 years, 15 years ago, if you became an IFBB Pro, like, I believe at your time when you became an IFBB Pro, that was a major thing. Like, it is still a massive fucking thing, and it's the pinnacle, but there's a lot more. It's not easier to get it. There's just more opportunities. Like, there's all, do you know what I mean? I
have an analogy thing where I always say, like, I'm not chasing a pro card. I'm chasing a pro.
Yep.
What do you do when you get your pro card? Like, for me, like, now in the next 8 weeks, I'm doing the Arnolds, and that'll fair me to, like, and I truly, hand on heart, believe, and I know that I'll get to the Olympia one day, because I don't care. Not that I don't care for a pro card, but the pro card's not the goal. The Olympia is the goal. The pro card's just a stepping stone to it. The same as the Arnolds. The Arnolds is fucking amazing, and I'm so grateful to be going and doing it. But again, I'm already prepping for the Olympia. Like, that's what I'm doing for. Not like every day is for that. And it has been since I was fucking 20. Do you know what I mean? So it's literally like, these people think you're going to get a pro card and the whole life's going to change, or they want the pro card to say, I'm a professional. I could tell fucking Sandra down at Spa that I'm a professional. She don't give a fuck. Like, I could tell anyone, I could put it in I see people now put in this, not a diss, but just a diss, IFBB in the bio.
It's the bio.
What for? Like, you know what I mean? To make out that they're a pro, and it's like, in reality, out of our circle, out of people, no one gives a fuck. You could just say you're a pro anyway. But what it is, I feel for me, is like, it's doing something with that pro card. So well obtaining it. So you see some people, they'll get a pro card, and it's like, well, what are you gonna do now? Like, you need to.
That's it. Like, that's the point of it. Do you know what I mean? It's like you are leveling up and you're progressing into the point of, you then want to be like, the goal should then be to become competitive in the professional league. Do you know what I mean? Like, you'll know yourself, going from the amateur league to the IFBB Pro League, it's different gravy altogether. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I said it on my last video, like, this now, I have to double down on everything. Like all the shit that I thought was hard, all the things like even down to like the sessions that I do, like this is now my job, right? So
Yep.
I'm like, okay, 3 sessions a day. Days where I'd be like, oh, posing. I'm like, no, what every element can I break down that's meant to be a bodybuilder? Now I need to do a session on that. And it might seem
Yep.
extreme, and it is very extreme, but you've got like for extreme results, you need extreme measures. Do you know what I mean? And that's
Yep.
how
100%. 100%.
so it's like, oh, it might be a bit overkill. Cool. I prefer overkill. I'd rather that than regrets for me.
Yep. Yep.
You know what I
Yep.
mean? So that's just that, like in the sense of like with the prep. But say for me, actually, I was going to ask you a question. Like, so I'm guessing your diet from prep changes drastically from off season to prep, yeah?
Yeah, just because there's a lot more variety and like when I diet down on prep, I'm literally starting my diet to the finish and I'm having oats first thing in the morning, sweet potato up until training, post training I'll have white potato and then sweet potato up until bedtime and that's it. That's literally it. Nothing changes.
What are your protein sources?
Just chicken.
Just chicken every meal.
Yep, chicken every meal. I'll have protein powder with my oats first thing in the morning, and I'll have a shake before I go to bed at night, and that's it.
That always stays the
So,
same. Like in a sense,
yep.
the amounts will change, I'm guessing.
Yeah, they'll just drop really, and even at that, because of last season how it went and how fucking long it went. By the end of prep, I probably ended up on more food than what I started on. So,
What sort of cardio do you do when you're prepping?
I right. So you might not believe this, right? But my cardio never went over 10 minutes.
Wow. I'm guessing that's really
The past 2 years, never went over 10 minutes. I only had access to a rowing machine, so I could only do 10 minutes on the rowing machine. And like over the course of the day, I'll probably cover like maybe 10,000 steps in general. I done PT for a while, so I was quite like I was on my feet quite a lot. And I take the dog out a walk and that, you know. So
yeah. And then so
nothing strenuous.
nothing crazy. And
Nah.
so for example, like give us an example of like your off-season food. I bet that's like crazy, isn't it?
Bit different, yeah, a bit different. More or less like well, it's still relatively clean. Like I've implemented a lot of things like obviously cereal is probably the worst thing that I would put in, like Frosties for instance, just because of the sugar content really. But more or less like a lot more things like rice, a lot more things like bagels, really just all your carb sources kind of things. Protein wise, probably go for I always stay with chicken, steaks, beef sometimes. It totally depends, but it's always like the same. It's just with the additional kind of cereal bars. I'm not really one for like fast food kind of things. Do you know what I mean? Like I would like it's just I think if I would have fast food on like one time and then I probably wouldn't have it for like quite a while. I'm not really I think because where I was brought up, I was like an hour and a half away from the closest McDonald's kind of thing. So I was never there. I was never at them. So
Yeah.
it's not really something that I I have like a go-to kind of thing.
I just find it
Um,
on my digestion. Like,
yeah,
like my eating, when you know yourself, you probably get up to 5,000-6,000 calories in off season. I just find like as soon as I have like a takeaway or like a McDonald's or something that's high in shit, really, and
yeah,
like processed, my digestion just goes to shit, and that then has a
yeah,
knock-on
yeah,
effect for the next couple of days. Because like
yeah.
how I'll set my diet out will be, I'll do similar to yourself where I'll have like a baseline diet of like
Mm-hmm.
chicken, steak, eggs, whey protein,
Yep,
and then baseline low GI carbs of like 100
yep,
grams, one that I can handle. And then as I increase, I'll just add additional to it. So I might go, okay, pre-workout 2 bagels. Okay, now two
yep,
squares bars, now cereal. And then that just tops up my calories by 50-gram carbs each time. But I'll always
yep,
keep them normal carb sources like white rice, potato, just because I know I can eat 500-600 gram in them without it
yep,
really
yep.
the fiber content being massive and my digestion being fucked. But you know yourself, when you get up to 1,000 gram of carbs a day, you can't eat that in potato or rice.
No,
Just
not a chance, not a chance.
what's
It's one of them things as well. Yeah, it's digestion's probably the biggest part of it all because I always like I'll always go by performance in the gym as well. If I start feeling a bit sluggish at anything, I'll make sure that like all the variables outside of that, probably more or less to do with eating, something's causing something to go sluggish in training. Like I'll always gauge by my performance and how it's going over being like, oh shit, how many grams is in this meal of like, is this going to sit well with me kind of thing? Do you know what I mean? Like, I'll find where my, like what you were saying there, like what digests well and what goes well and what you can take in. And then after that, I will look more so towards how training and that's going. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same, because again, it's even with the, like the peri nutrition, like we're around the workout, like to be honest, like I used to push that a lot higher than I did. And the same thing, like, okay, like, yeah, I might be having 200 grams carbs pre-workout. I just want to sleep.
Yeah.
I literally just want to sleep. I'm like, this not an hour and a half before training, to like 60 to 70 grams pre-workout is perfect for me.
Yep.
And then I'll have the additional into intra. And then obviously post-workout, I'll have a bit more because I'm not that arsed about sleeping. So it's just work, like you say, finding your own body and working. What's the highest your food's ever been in calorie-wise?
Highest food's been 6,500. That pushed me. That pushed me to like 1150, 1200 carb. And again, like this, it also goes through from contest prep to off season. Contest prep is literally just trace fats. So there's never any additional like fat sources in my diet kind of thing. So even throughout the off season, I'm more or less just getting trace fats from things, unless I implement something like a peanut butter or something like that, where I will get obviously a more real kind of source of fat from. I'll never, or eggs for instance, that's probably another thing that will get added into my off season.
That's similar to what I do, is in a sense of like, once I hit my limit on carbs, obviously fats are denser in calories, so and I'll get in, so you can whack peanut butter on anything. So then I'll get to like probably 800 gram of carbs or 900, and then I'll be like, okay, let's, like, my fat's maybe at 50 gram, and then I'll just start adding additional fats on top, which helps massively. Yeah, it helps massively. What's the lowest your calories have ever been on a prep? Do you know? Or you don't know, do you?
I'll be honest, the past couple of years working with Vicky, I have not got a clue what the lowest would have been. The year before that, I done a prep, and by the end of my prep, my calories were down, I think it was something like 1150, 1200 calories. I was on 0 carbs. I can't remember, what was the protein? I think protein was something like 200 grams.
Yeah,
fats were 35, 40 grams by the end, 0 carbs.
How did you feel on that?
Death. I was taking hypos every 10 minutes. Steps for 20,000 as well. Steps for 20,000. Had 30 minutes post-workout cardio.
Did you ever feel like, I get that feeling of like you're just floating? I was on about it the other day, where you're not actually there. Like, you're like, literally, am I here? Am I not here? Like, I'm numb. Like, you're just a shell of your normal self, and people are like, are you okay? You're like, it was bad. Like, yes, I've been there before. I actually had, I'll tell a story now, it's just bad. So the year before, I think it was 2019, I actually did the same thing, because I used to have to make weight. So I have to like get like 12, 15 pounds extra when I'm ready, and they're off me. So we did like, I think I was on like 2.5 hours cardio. We wasn't counting steps because it was old school. And I was doing like turkey and egg whites every meal, just asparagus, no fats, no carbs. And I took myself off one time to not to a McDonald's, to a Starbucks. And I literally just sat there and I thought, I'm going to have a mental breakdown. And I rang my missus and I was like, I don't think I can do it. I was like, I literally don't think I can do it. She was like, what? And I was like nearly sobbing, like, I can't do it. Like, I just need food. And she was like, what the fuck? So I don't quit. I fucking hate quitting. So I was like, I'm going to get a muffin. I'm going to get this. Fuck everything. I don't give a fuck. It's not worth it. Got to the checkout, and she was like, what do you want? And I was thinking in my head, they're going to know I'm dieting. They're going to like, they're not going to serve me. I thought it's so weird, like they know, like they give a fuck, like some random Starbucks. So I was just like, double espresso, please. She was like, is that everything? And I was like, don't break. I was like, yep. Net the espresso, got in my car, and I don't know if you've ever had it where you just go back and forth in your head. Like, no, it's not worth it. No, I'm fucked. And then I was like, no, you just leave it. It doesn't even matter. Just get a fucking food. It's not going to hurt. And it just going back and forth. And I ended up, I was at home and I was like, fuck, I'm here. And I thought, if I go inside now, I'm never going to be able to eat food because my missus will not let me. Like, So I was sat there thinking, do I go inside? Do I not go inside? Went in and she was like, "Have you cheated on your diet?" I was like, "No, I haven't." And it was like a police interrogation. Like, I cheated on my diet. I was like, one, I put my tits on double espresso, and two, I was like, I haven't. And she was like, you better. And I was thinking, fucking hell, good job I didn't, because you'd have fucking known. And luckily, I didn't cheat on my diet. But at that point, that was like my breaking point, and I thought, if I do that, I can just anything that hits me in life now. Just think back to the moments, zero carbs, zero fats, and you just think, yeah, I can do fucking anything.
Madness.
Yeah, it does
mental.
it does hit you, done it hard. But so with your training, bro, like obviously everybody knows you for how strong you are and so on. But I don't think most people know, like, how do you split your training up then? Do you do your own, you said?
Yeah, so I've always favoured your more so bodybuilding style split, but over say 8 or 9 days, everything. So like I would never kind of split my training up into like a week the way I would look at it. Obviously I favour your more so bodybuilding style of training as in one body part per day, but over your kind of I would say probably 8 days, everything gets hit twice. Just because the way that my recoveries went, and obviously the way that training has always been, I've always been one to train throughout the full week. I've always been one to train every single day kind of thing. And I've been brought up that way to not really know anything different. So my body, I feel, is adapted to that sort of training. And like I said, it's a case of training one body part a day. I will auto-regulate some stuff if I go in and I'm not feeling 100% on that exercise. If I need to move to something else, or I need to change a rep scheme up or an intensity strategy up, I will change it up at the time. But I feel as if I'm experienced enough now to be able to do that. I would never recommend that to anybody unless I was confident in their experience within the gym to be able to do something like that. But things like squat, benches, and deadlifts kind of thing, I'll bench twice a week, I'll squat once, and I'll deadlift once, and they'll always be on the same day, kind of thing. But the only thing that gets rotated is chest and shoulders. So within 1 week, chest will get hit twice, and then the following week, chest will get hit once, but shoulders will get hit twice. So
how does a back workout look for you? A general back.
So a back workout. So I will have 2 back sessions over the course of your 8 or 9 days. One of them will be prioritized around the barbell row, and the next one will be prioritized around the deadlift. Deadlifts at the end of the week on the weekend, and the second back session's midweek. So that's where I would go in. I would start off with my chins, pull-ups, whatever you want to call them. Then I would move to the barbell row, and then I would move towards more so pull downs, non-supported rows first. I would never ever put anything supported in at the start of the sessions anyway. I would always kind of look towards them more so at the end whenever I'm fatigued a little bit more. Like I feel as if within the modern day industry, there's kind of too much stuff that's maybe a little bit like too much supported that I would look at. Like this goes back to me being a more so old school type of trainer. I would look at the old like school type of ways. Like when you look at, say for instance, training maybe 10, 20 years ago, not much was supported apart from the kind of odd thing here and there. Whereas now 90% of your exercises are very much supported kind of thing. And don't get me wrong, like it is very, very, very good. But I always believe, like, especially for me being a non-assisted athlete, a chest supported row over a barbell row, it just doesn't make the cut for me kind of thing. So I would always favor something like that, or like even a chest supported T-bar row kind of thing. If I wouldn't opt for a supported exercise over a non-supported one, especially if I was fresh and I was at the start of my session.
So you always start with that at the start of your session for that reason.
I'll always start with the big moves. Yeah, always start with the big moves. Even like deadlifts. So obviously, I wouldn't even. Sometimes I'll go in and I'll perform maybe one set of pull-ups before deadlifts. Sometimes I will just go in and warm up with deadlifts, warm up with a resistance band, just so I can put literally fucking everything from that day into the first exercise, being either a deadlift or a squat or a bench press kind of thing. But on the days that, what's that? Sorry.
How many sets of deads would you do?
Right now I'm only running one set. I feel as if it's what I can recover from the most to be able to optimize my barbell squats, which happen 2 days after I deadlift, and also be able to recover for obviously everything else kind of thing. I feel as if whenever I used to always do a top set and a back off set, and the top set would always be say maybe 1 to 6 reps, and then the back off set would be fucking 6 to 20 reps kind of thing. And I was performing like 6 to 20 reps with 220, 230, 240 kilo every week. And it was by the time I got to squats, I couldn't maximize them to anything, and I pulled my back offset from deadlifts, and my squat shot up to 300 kilo. I was sitting at something like 240, 250,
So
and then I was able to progress it up to 300. So
what do you have your rep range at now for deads? That one set?
Deads, the now I'm playing with fives. That's literally been every single week between the kind of your 3 to 6 reps, but I seem to always have been falling at fives. And for a while I was up at like 3 to 330 for I must have been in that kind of weight range for like 5 or 6 weeks, because I went 300. What did I go? 300 for 4, then 310 for 3, 320 for the double, 330 for a single. So 330 was the kind of main goal. Pulled back and done the 300 for 5, and then I felt, because the 300 for 5 was something that I really wanted to kind of like box off as well, but because I'd spent like 5-6 weeks between 300 and 330, it was like if I stayed up there, I would have just started to see things regress and go back the way kind of thing. So pulled back to 280 and started performing paused reps. As when I finished I'd done like a rotation of paused maybe 3 or 4 months ago now. When I finished on paused, I stopped at 270 and then moved back to straight through reps really. So basically what I'd done was I went back to 280 kilo. So basically I left off at 270, took off from 280 on paused, which, looking at it 3 or 4 months ago, I would have told you to fuck off if you told me to pause deadlift 280 kilo. Yeah. First day we done that, paused 280 for 5, and then paused 290 for 5, and then I've not done pause since. So paused will be back on this weekend. So
what's this weekend then? What are we saying? Heard it here first.
300. Man,
this is more for me because my deadlifts is shit and my back is terrible. That's why I got you on, just to fucking scrutinize you.
Let's just talk about deadlifts.
Yeah. Just for me, yes. How many warm-up sets would you do then?
I always go up one plate at a time, but this is the biggest thing with deadlifts. You can tax yourself very easily. That's one thing that you've got to watch. Like both of us could deadlift 140 kilo for 20-30 reps, right? We know we could, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean because we could do 140 for 20-30 reps, we need to warm up with 10 reps, 5 to 10 reps with 140. 5 to 10 reps with 140 is going to fuck your set at 200 kilo, easy kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? So the key to deadlifts, I always believe the key to deadlifts is getting to your top end set, whether that be for 1 rep or whether that be for 10 reps. Getting to that top end set as quick as possible without expending any energy whatsoever. So for instance, if my top set is going to be 300, I'll do say maybe 60 kilo for 5 to 8 reps, and then I'll do 100 for say maybe 2, and then I'll do 141, 181, 221, 261, 300 were there kind of thing. Yeah. Might still take me half an hour to get there, but I mean, it could even be half an hour, 40 minutes over the warm-up sets, because I mean, once you get to like 180 to 220, you'll maybe take 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and then you could do like 220 to 260. You're probably talking maybe 3-4 minutes.
Do you take that longer rest in between them sets, do you? Yeah.
Probably would, yeah. Just to make sure that I am fully fresh, because obviously I'm not wanting to go, say like obviously 220 will still be my warm-up, but I'm not wanting to go from 220 to 260, a 40 kilo jump, and still carry a tiny bit of fatigue or a tiny bit of tiredness from the 220. I need to make sure that I'm as fresh going in for 260 as what I was going in for 60 kilo. Do you know what I mean?
I think this is where a lot of people go wrong in all aspects. I do it with my guys. I basically, the warm-up, it'll be 6, it'll be 4, it'll be 2, it'll be 1, and then you go. Because I see guys literally using all their energy system to get to the final set, where it's like 10, accumulated 50 reps in any exercise. And then it's really strange though, because with deadlifts, I don't actually do this in essence. I don't take a long rest in between. I kind of like, oh, fuck, I need to go, because I'm like, it's almost like a nervous thing. I'm like, fuck, I'm fucking dead. But with hack squats,
kicked in as well.
And like with hack squats or squats, because I'm good at them, I'm like, just put whatever the fuck I want on the bottom, whatever I want on the machine.
Yeah.
I'll chill and I'll be like, no, my right song's got to be on, my belt, my shoes my socks have got to be the right height. And I'm like, right, let's go. But it's weird because with deadlifts, you're like similar with deadlifting. Like I don't do that, which is something I actually am going to implement with my deads because and again with the pause reps as well, it's nice to see like how you go up and then come back down. I've never done that personally myself because I've always just gone, oh, well, anything below 5 reps is not going to grow me any muscle. But I think you get over that. Well, you'll tell me better, but you need to get over that plateau sometimes, and even over the nervousness of being able to move that weight. Do you know what I mean? Once you get over the confidence of moving that weight, you're like, oh, right, okay, I can move it.
Well, that's literally it, because when you think about it, whatever weight you're pulling for 6 to 10 reps, if you even drop it to 3 to 6 reps, you're going to add like 20, 30 kilo onto that working set. So 20, 30 kilo added onto a 220 deadlift that you're doing for 6 to 10 reps. 250 kilo deadlift for say 3 to 6 reps is not a pleasant set. Do you know what I mean? Even like a 180 kilo set for, if like, everybody's going to be different with deadlifts. Like somebody could be pulling 350 kilo for 3 to 6 reps, but somebody else could be pulling 180 kilo for 3 to 6 reps and get the exact same stimulus as what the other person that's pulling 350, because that's simply where they're at, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? It would never be anything different. If my deadlift working set was 180 kilo, my goal would always still be the same, to get to 180 kilo as quick as I could. Do you know what I mean? It's always been.
You implement like rack pulls and other forms of, like you said, like pause sets and stuff like that to get the weight up higher, or to like use different like range of motion, get stronger over different areas of the deadlift.
I used to, the back session that I would prioritize barbell roast. I prioritize barbell roast now just because of how kind of like what level my deadlift's not at. I used to always do rack pulls in them sessions, so it was always going to be like, I think it fell a Wednesday every week. Oh, it would have been like maybe 5-6 months ago now. I would always do rack pulls in that session, but it got to the point where I was going in and rack pulling like 323. This was, my deadlift at the time was probably, I don't know, maybe 280, 290 kilo, potentially 300 for the odd single here and there. But I was going in doing 320, 330 rack pulls for sets of 5 on like a dead stop, and then expecting to get to maybe 2 days later and it's, oh, here we go, it's deadlift day, let's try and pull a fucking another big number. But I think with the way that deadlift started shooting up, the rack was never ever like, the rack that I only had access to was too high. So I was always having to stand on blocks, or I was always having to stand on plates. And it just got to the point where that was like a bit of a pain in the arse, that I just needed either to pull off of blocks, or I needed to take them out and just focus on something like a barbell row and allow myself a little bit more kind of energy moving into the weekend for my actual deadlift day kind of thing. And that's really what happened. So I pulled rack pulls. I want to start putting back in block pulls. I'll put back in block pulls soon enough, but I don't know when. But I started doing rack pulls. It was just the hardest thing with them is you just need to make sure that you're pulling off the right height. Because obviously a lot of racks are different.
People who don't know, where would you feel the right height is? I always think mid.
I would say mid chin. Yeah, definitely mid chin. The thing is, like, some racks won't allow you to pull off a mid chin because the safety bars, the bottom safety bars, will be like knee height kind of thing. But if you can secure yourself a squat rack, or even just a half rack that you can put the crash bars wherever you want, then you can pull mid chin easy kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? That's mid chin's ideal, because then you are getting the off the floor part out of the way, and then it's like most people's sticky point, like not sometimes it's quite, I feel it's quite rare to get somebody's sticky point off the floor of a deadlift, unless they're using a very whippy bar and they need to get used to the whip. Most people struggle from like just below the knee to all the way upright kind of thing. It's like the lockout. So I mean, if that's your sticky point in a deadlift, then rack pulls are perfect. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. That's what I think as well. Definitely 100%. Like, what would you say? So I'm guessing your favorite day is back training.
Yeah. I'd probably say back, as in my most enjoyable day. My hardest day out of the week's 100% legs.
So if anyone's seen your videos, we've seen you're the same as me. You get hyped to fuck before a set. What I've always wanted to know, like, what do you think of before you're about to deadlift? What are the thoughts? How do you tap into it mentally?
is a hard one to like, even like, I could never go into like conversation off what I think about. It's just like really, 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 it's just it's, it's just dark. It's really
Yeah, man,
bad.
I would get sectioned. I would
Oh,
literally get sectioned. Like I'd literally like they'd be like, "You're weird." Like, but you so
that's it.
did you change to Happy Hardcore? Is it?
Yeah, I would listen to like Masters of Hardcore and that.
Yeah. See, I listen to like Disturbed or Ramstein or like something. I
Mhm,
never ever listen to it. I don't even
mhm.
like it until I'm training and
Yep,
splitting
yep.
or anything like that. I'm like, right, let's go. And like, yeah, the I think that's what a lot of people kind of miss from training or they don't understand. It
Hmm.
well, when you're doing big sets like that, it's very taxing mentally. Like
Yep,
to get that energy and to get that actual thought process and to get in that zone, as I call it, tapping into it, like
yep,
it takes a lot out of you, doesn't it?
yep. 100%, 100%.
And I think I've
Definitely.
like as people are growing like through the training experience, I think it's good for them to know that you need that. You need some. You can't just go into a set and think, "Oh, I'm just gonna lift." It's
Yeah,
like
it's important. That's not, nah.
it has
Especially
to be.
your bigger, your far bigger sets, like on these much bigger moves, like say for instance a top end set on a squat variation of, or a hip hinge variation. It's different altogether, especially if you want to take the set like very
There,
far.
take it there to where it
Hmm.
needs to be. Do you know what I
Yep.
mean? Like, and that's what people don't like. Like, I always say there's going to the gym, and then there's going to the gym. Like, you know what I mean?
Yep.
It's different, man. It's a different thing. But I always like to know that because I know, like, people say to me, well, a lot of people in my gym will say, like, fucking hell, it makes a lot of noise. Or like, is there any need for all that noise? But they don't truly understand the psyche of like I wrote a post about it the other day. Like one thing I do sometimes is I'll count down like top five, so I know
Yep.
who's in my lineup now. I know who's
Yep.
going to be there, and I imagine myself in top five, and I'm like, okay, so that's fifth, that's
Yep.
sixth. You know, I keep counting them down, and then obviously I just say to myself, the winner is, because you'll know the same feeling when they say the
Hmm.
winner is and it's your name. That
Yep.
feeling like you just like, yep. And I literally use them as like a fucking kill list. I'm like, yeah, he's gone. And that how I get through the like extra 5 reps. And I think that visualization that like it's needed, man, or you just won't go there.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah, 100%. What's that, bro? Sorry.
100%. No, definitely.
So you touched on like recovery. Like you said, like you just feel like you've adapted to it, or do you do things like anything special to recover? Take any supplements, or like in a sense, what would you say?
No, I genuinely feel that my body has adapted to it more than 100%, but I prioritize sleep a lot, naps during the day a lot. Like these are my main sources of recovery, really. Um, Obviously because I don't take your days off,
Yeah,
it's sleep is a very big part. Making sure that I'm eating enough is a very big part. Making sure, like supplement wise, I don't take any form of like joint supplements or anything like that. Not to say that I won't take any down the line, just at the current moment, I don't take anything like that. It's just really always been, it's just been sleep that's been the main priority, obviously.
do you practice
Making
sleep?
sure that my food's the priority, and obviously managing obviously what I train in the gym as well. Like if I notice that I'm not recovering from something, I will look over everything and make sure that it is simply just down to maybe doing an extra thing too much or something like that. It's not really, that doesn't really happen often, but sleep's probably my biggest thing that I find helps me a lot.
Yeah. How much sleep do you get? Try and get,
I look to get anywhere between kind of 7 and 10 hours every night, so
and
more or
then
less it's always up at your
that
10.
how long's that?
I'll sleep from like 11 till 9 or
Hmm.
midnight. It depends what time I go to bed at. There's been a lot on lately, so I've ended up in bed around kind of 11 midnight.
Are you
So I'll push that all the way till 10 o'clock.
are you coaching now?
Yeah, just
How you
coaching now.
finding
So
coaching?
I love it, man. I love it. I started kind of putting a little bit more into it, like quite like a little while ago now. I used to do a lot of PT and that as well. So PT was really the kind of first thing that took over. I would never advertise coaching or anything. If somebody had asked me for advice, I'd be more than happy to give them it. But then once I kind of started pushing my coaching a little bit more and like started working with quite a few more people, then it kind of took off more. And to be honest, like it's really where it's at now for me. I enjoy it more than anything else. I enjoy it more than what I've ever enjoyed. So realistically, I would like to push it as far as I could. So
yeah. So how many clients like now? How far do you see the coaching going? Like, you literally do you coach all every level of athlete, or just competitors, or general public, or?
yeah, so I would coach from I coach people from lifestyle to all the way people wanting to compete. I've got nobody competing this year, but quite a few people with the aspirations of competing next year,
That's good.
which is cool to see. So more of my people have really just entered a long kind of off-season phase. A couple of people that have had to kind of diet down a little bit just to put themselves in a little bit of a better position to move into a successful off-season, which is cool to see. And a lot of people are really fucking kicking butt. So
That's good.
It's always good when people do the work. Do you know what I mean? Because
it's so rewarding as well. I've been coaching for that long now that you just spoke so highly of your coach, and you put all your trust in that person. Literally, people are putting their hopes and dreams in your hands. And for me,
literally.
I'm like, wow, like someone actually looks to me for the answers to be able to achieve the biggest aspirations. And you think and then when they do it, to be a part of that is like, it's phenomenal, man.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, people don't understand the job satisfaction of it is just beyond anything to do with money, beyond anything to do with freedom of working from where I always have a laugh. Like I say, I quit a 9 to 5 because I didn't want to work all the time. Now I work 24/7. But do you know what I mean? But it's never work. It never seems like I'll go to the British finals in London this weekend for clients, and that I'm going to set off at 6 a.m. I'll drive there for 4 hours, be there all day for everyone, and drive all the way home. And I'm prepping. But for me, because I know how much they put into it, and I know and what it means to me for them to be on stage, and what it means for them. It's just it's so phenomenal coaching. Are you still doing one-to-one PT or not?
Nah, I actually, well, I am, I've opened up space to start doing PT from Strength Check in Carlisle, because I was fortunate enough to be able to move here, getting closer just literally last week there, to be able to be closer and settled within my own training and that.
Nice.
Which has obviously been quite a big thing. So obviously I'm going to be more so looking towards the PT side of things, obviously, when the new unit and that opens up. And obviously the now anyway it is open, but if I'm being honest, the online coaching side of things is doing well, and I'm enjoying it a lot. So time will only really tell.
One thing I found with PTing is I love the interaction, because obviously you'll know yourself, if you're an online coach, you spend a lot of your time on your own, just in a Starbucks or at home in your office or whatever. And I love the interaction, and obviously helping people to train and giving them. I always feel like when you PT someone one-to-one, you give them energy to train, it's transferable. But I think with the PT, I just found I was limited to how many people I could help. Do you know what I mean? Because I could only be in one place at one time and for 1 hour. So now I can help as many people as I possibly can, with all the hours in the day, rather than just being on the gym floor, working that 1 hour, helping that one person. So that's how I eventually was PT, and I love it. And if the guys from who are coaching, I think you coach Sam, who's from our gym. He's trying to blag him to come down to our gym. He's like, get him down. I was like, yeah, we'll do legs, not fucking deadlifts. But he was he was saying with the PT side of things, I love spotting them, helping them, correcting a bit of the form and stuff. But it's just becomes limiting when you've got so many online clients, which is nice. It's lovely to have. But the PT in it becomes it's just a balancing act of both, which is thingy.
No, definitely.
So where did you live before? You lived a million miles away from anything, and now you moved to Carlisle.
Yeah, I lived in Stranraer, which is a little town in Dumfries and Galloway. Well, even at that, I lived outside of it. So now it's around 120 miles from Carlisle. Basically, the opposite side of Scotland kind of thing. So
right, okay, cool. So you closer
you'll know so much far closer to everything now. The reality is, from anywhere it knocks off 120 miles. So what's that you're talking maybe 2.5 hours, 3 hours.
Yeah. So that's good then.
So I always had that, and then however long it took from, say, for instance, here to wherever I was going, kind of thing, because most things were down south, most things were down the way.
Yeah, literally. I remember we was going to train one time, and it was you becoming 6 hours and I becoming another 4 hours, and it was like, geez, it was long, isn't it?
It's madness.
What are the plans for this year then? What the rest of the off season?
Yeah, off season for the rest of the year, and then we will be looking towards. It'll probably be more so the back end of 22 as well. Depending obviously what's happening with the worlds and things like that. Again, it'll be to do the British Grand Prix first, and then it'll be hopefully the worlds after that. So, it'll be probably the back end of 22. So I mean, I think my off season can probably run until maybe March, April time again. But obviously that'll be a full year, which is the first time that I've ever gave it a full year. So it'll be interesting to see. Interesting to see what gains have been made.
That's the fun part, isn't it? Like, yeah, well, I do anyway. I'm just a big fat mess, and I actually forget I'm good at bodybuilding. When I'm off season, I'm like, because I don't look big in clothes, and like no one's like, oh, you're big. And then when I start prepping and my waist comes in, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm really good at this. I really forgot. Like, fuck it. And then I get motivated then. But yeah, it's that's it. Are you going to the Arnold's or not?
Yeah, I should be there. And also, what else is happening? FitX next week. Are you going?
Possibly, depending. Yeah, I've got some clients in it. Where's it again? Is it Liverpool?
Liverpool.
Yeah, it's literally 40 minutes from me. So yeah.
Oh, that's not too bad. I'm not even sure how long it'll take from here. What will it take? Like a couple hours or something? 2 or 3 hours?
Yeah, 2 hours. 2 hours or so. It's not too bad.
That's not too bad.
Yeah, the Arnold should be sick as well. Like, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, definitely. I'll definitely need to make sure and get to them.
Yeah, it'd be class. Right, bro. So if you could tell your former self who's starting out bodybuilding, what would you tell? What advice would you give yourself?
Probably just potentially take a little bit more to do with nutrition, as in eat the same amount of food, but a little bit more nutritious. I always favoured the bodybuilding style split from the start to kind of now. So I mean, training, I would never really look back at training and think, fuck, that could have been better, because obviously it's got me to where I am today. But food wise, probably I look back and wish I maybe took a little bit more to do with nutrition a little bit earlier. As then pushed better foods a little bit earlier. But I mean, we'll never know really. We'll never know if I would have ended up like this, or if I would have ended up 5 stone heavier.
All happens for a reason.
That's it, man.
What I was thinking before, though, you know, when you were saying your show got cancelled, this got cancelled, and like you're the similar sort of mindset to me, is like that optimistic. Yeah, but what if it were, I couldn't live in regret. Like,
yep.
Yeah, I could. And I think that's a lot of people's problems as well, or a lot of people's attributes of having that optimistic mindset of like, it is what it is. It's meant to be.
Yep.
Like having that manifestation and thinking, no, this is how it's meant to be. I'm exactly where I need to be at this moment in time. It does help massively. If you could change one thing in the industry right now, what would you change?
Trends. I hate trends.
What trends you hate?
Oh, there's just every single trend on Instagram that one person does and then everybody does is like, oh, please stop doing it. I don't know. No, I think it's
crazy,
just
though. It's mental.
Yeah, I literally just think, I don't know. It's all, everybody just like, because there's that many younger people coming up now, I wish the younger people were coming up when I was coming up and they were able to see what I seen and what I learned from. Like, I was learning off of your days whenever the likes of Jay Cutler and all that were still, they had finished competing, but they were going about. So you were learning from them in magazines, you were learning from them on YouTube and that. Now it's like nobody knows who they are. And it's like everything's just
trying to be, so everyone's just been on the next thing, aren't they? The next trend.
Yep.
Like they do this exercise because this exercise is the best, but this is more accurate, or this is more beneficial. And I think people are kind of looking for the answers and the secrets when there's really no fucking secret. It's hard work over a long period of time. That's all it is, over and over and repetitive again. But I don't think people want to hear that. And it was the same thing as we were saying about the pro card. It's the trend. I'm going for my pro card. It used to be, when I was younger, it used to be, I'm doing a bodybuilding show. And they never fucking do it. And they G everybody up. And then they'd miraculously get ill and the mum had died or something. Or the dog had died or whatever. And they'd never do it. just because they fucking like KFC. But I love KFC,
Yeah.
but I still did the show. But they always used to do that, and now it's more like, oh, I'm going for my pro card. It's like doing a show is now not good enough. Now it's, oh, I have to turn pro, and I'm like,
now all it is have an IFBB Pro in your Instagram bio. If you've got that, then you're automatically famous.
This is
Do you know what I mean? You're automatically cool as fuck.
Someone didn't tell me because I'm not famous. What's crack? I need a blue tick out. But yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, there is that, isn't it? And I think everybody's doing it for everybody else. Like,
what did you say, sorry?
I think everybody is doing bodybuilding for everybody else rather than themselves.
That is very much correct.
Like, I didn't do this. I did this before there was Instagram. I
didn't. You do it because you enjoy it. You like it.
Not do it. Like, you know, if you said to me, "Oh, don't do this," like now I'm on a deload week and it's killing me inside because I'm like, I just want to train. I just love fucking doing it. But I think everybody, like you say, the trends of everybody doing like the same as everyone else to almost to get the likes, almost to write fucking the long ass paragraph about why they're fucking rotating exercises and why they're doing this. But it's basically just copied and pasted off somebody else.
Literally.
But that's one of the things I hate as well. If you could go back and have anyone else's physique, I know we all love our own physique, but whose physique apart from John Cena do you like? Who do you aspire to? Who do you think had the greatest physique of all time?
Dorian Yates.
I knew you was gonna say Dorian. I knew it was. Why Dorian?
Just because I feel as if he brung mass. He brung bodybuilding. Obviously I know your it's style. You have your own style, but I feel as if like I would go to a bodybuilding show and be like very much attracted to crazy size kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? I feel as if that's always been my, like, even going back to like looking over first ever bodybuilders and that, like I would never have been able to tell you who Arnold was, but I could tell you who Jay Cutler was.
Jay Cutler, he had the mass as well, right? It's him, Ronnie, them guys. See, like I'm the opposite to that, which is mad, isn't it? Like I like the guys who don't look like they should be bodybuilders, but they have the crazy ass proportions. I don't know why. It's mad how bodybuilding's like that. But I knew you was gonna say Dorian, 100%, just because of his back. That's all it is, isn't it? Right, bro. I'm gonna have to shoot, but it's been fucking amazing having you on here, bro. I really
thank you so much.
And if we get a chance to train, we will get a chance to train.
100%.
We're not doing fucking deadlifts. Not a chance.
We can do 2 days training.
I'm gonna message you after this. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm gonna say program my deadlifts. Callum, fuck you. Khifie's programming my deadlifts. No, nice one, bro, for that. I really appreciate it. And we'll chat soon, brother.
Thank you, mate. Thank you. Appreciate that.